Hello, my name is Pamela Gupta. I'm a cybersecurity strategist, and I wanted to talk to you about the recently filed charges that NYDFS brought against First American Title Insurance Company. NYDFS, as you know, is New York Department of Financial Services. They came out with a cybersecurity regulation in March of 2017 called 23 NY CRR 500, and it is a fairly robust cybersecurity regulation. It is actually, make no mistake, one of the most rigorous, first of its kind cybersecurity regulation in the country, which a lot of other states, as well as some federal agencies, are adopting. 2017, later in that year, I had done a webcast with one of my business security partners for encryption from Thales on the requirements of NYDFS and the cybersecurity regulation, what you need to do in order to be creating a compliant program for this particular regulation. There are two critical things that I would like to talk about that I talked about then, or still relevant today, and extremely so, as we'll see in the charges brought about. One is NPI. NYDFS calls is calling NPI as non-public information, and this is two-faceted. So it is a non-public information, which is sensitive, business-sensitive information that an organization has, and could include intellectual property, it could include financial information of the business itself, their market competitive differentiators, etc., as well as what we know as PII, as personally identifiable information. PII, in this case, in this NPI classification, is information that can be harmful if it falls in the wrong hands, such as social security number of clients, bank information, etc. And the two critical facets necessary to craft a aligned program is first to identify NPI in the organization. So create a risk profile in the organization based on what your NPI is, as well as how you would find that is through a well-defined cybersecurity risk assessment. So the risk assessment is really a key cornerstone of this regulation. And this has been plays a big part in the charges filed against First American. So NYDFS found First American to be a violation of 6 provisions in the regulation. First American is a title insurance company. It is in fact one of the largest title insurance companies in the U.S. Last year alone, they had written more than 50,000 policies in the state of New York. Now, each violation by DFS for DFS carries a charge of up to $1,000, but they are treating each one of these exposed documents as a violation. And with 885 million exposed documents, First American is now looking at potentially a charge of $885 billion. Their whole revenue, their entire revenue in 2018 was $1.5 billion. So I doubt they're going to be able to pay that kind of price. And I don't think when the final ruling is determined in October of this year by NYDFS, if it's going to carry that kind of charge. But needless to say, it's going to be a hefty charge. The charge against them, as I mentioned, they have 6 violations for the regulation itself, and is basically centers around exposure of non-public information around customer information, as in their financial records. I talked about also that a risk assessment was key to this. They are being charged with not creating a well-defined cybersecurity program that clearly has identified their risks to NPI, and specifically in this case to customer and client financial records, such as mortgage information, withdrawal receipts, bank account information, etc. So you can read more about the 6 different provisions on the NYDFS website itself, but they do range from the not setting up the right program, to not creating right security policies, not having the right controls in place to define access to the NPI. The other aspect of this is that not only were they were found to be in violation, but when they were asked about why they had exposure to NPI and they didn't have the right controls, their CISO told them that this was not under the purview of the security department. So clearly they have bigger issues within that organization on how they set about creating compliance with this regulation. Now, in addition to the 6, let's do a deeper dive on some of the systems involved in the violation. So First American has an internal repository of where they store all this information that is then used by title agents, by their employees, and also is distributed to their business partners, to their outside parties. And they have, it's called FAST, the repository is FAST. How they access that information is by a web-based information system they created called Eagle Pro. Now, Eagle Pro is a First American software. They created it, it's housed on their network, and when they created it in 2014, after a security update or a vulnerability update, they had a feature update. They introduced vulnerabilities into the program which were not discovered till 2018. So the problem NYDFS found with this is not only was there a problem with a large security vulnerability where this is internet-based software, so it is the exposure then is not localized. It can be exposing these records on the internet. The problem was not only was it not fixed immediately, it was also not deemed as a critical vulnerability that should have gotten the right attention and remediation in a timely fashion. But First American did not do that. In fact, they classified that as first a medium severity and then a low severity. In addition to that, the NYDFS regulation holds senior management down to front lines responsible for the program. So senior management has to give the program of how they are complying to and discuss that, how they're protecting NPI in the organization with the board. And in their presentation in 2018, they reported that when they did a random sampling of 1,000 records from FAST, that document repository, 30% of them had NPI but was not classified as such. So that again is a huge problem, because if you don't recognize where NPI is located, you don't have any chances of being able to protect it. So a lot of different issues we're seeing. The vulnerabilities, of course, led to a staggering volume of personal data exposed out in the internet. That could be not only be used for malicious purposes, but could be used without any detection or any knowledge of the users, of the clients. So to bring this about to conclusion, this has been a what NYDFS is called a cascade of errors. It wasn't just one error. It was a whole bunch of errors which were systemic as well as a point in time. So in conclusion, I just want to talk about the effect of not creating the right approach and a security strategy, which can lead to a lot of cost as well as downtime for not only the company as well as for other stakeholders, including the clients. Thank you again. My name is Pamela Gupta, and I look forward to hearing from you.